Hey there, this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark. Welcome to episode 5 of our Grain complete walkthrough series. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the sample section. The sample section here is the second most exciting part about this. I like the playback algorithms are the most exciting part to me. But we're going to go through what all of these different buttons do in the sample section, so let's get into it. First, let's start with the most basic one, the sample load and select section. So these buttons, they're cruising through a folder. What folder are they cruising through? Boom, chords, phrases, pads, and stabs. And that's in the other samples folder, which is in this other samples folder in the factory sound bank. And you can select, any folder. So, I got, let's see, loops, some random thing here. And then next one. So I'm just cruising through a sample folder of my own, and this is fun to do just because if you just want to take an existing patch and then find out what happens when you drop a different wave into it, then go for it. All right, what's this? So there's your folder select. Next button here. This is important. Start sampling. Can you hear me in the back? Hey, can you hear me in the back? All right. Now, you can't hear me in the back. You know why? Because of this. There's your next little wonderful piece. See that? Let's go down a little bit. Not that much. Back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? In the back. Hey, can you hear me in the back? Sorry, thank you for amusing me. That is how quickly you can take a sample that you just recorded and turn it into something dumb in this case, but something all the same. So that's what that button does. You can record. So just another example. All right, let's see how that came out. And this button here, preview, plays your actual preview. And obviously my record levels were too hot. That's fine. So I've got all this where I was jangling, and then let's say I just want this one bell piece right here. So I'm going to move my start. The green is the start. The red is the end. I'm going to move those to the appropriate place. All right, so there you go. That's your record button. Now, this edit sample. All right, so I recorded that. I know I'm not going to use any of this stuff, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit my sample. And let me zoom way in. And we probably zoom more than that if we wanted. Why don't we do that? We're going deeper. All right, close enough for government work. Save it. Pretty interesting little patch that I just made in like 30 seconds. Now you have seen the power of the sample and edit. there. So yeah, that's what those do. And your preview button, you have to hold the button down to preview the sample. So FYI. So you have seen this is obviously the sample preview window, and this is the sample that you're playing with. And this display Y position is an automatable effect. Let's see if we can do a quick demonstration of that. All right, so if you look at the sequencer, I recorded a quick, as I was recording, I was moving my mouse up and down on the rack, and see this display Y, there's the display Y position. It's an automatable effect. So you can, and in the process of, sorry, it sounds neat. In the process of moving that around, I was also accidentally grabbing the endpoint and moving it, so that again also automatable, as you can see. But if you don't, if I didn't want that, I want to keep my end position, then cool, I can just delete that automation. And I don't want to mess with the display gate. I just want the Y position to move around, and here it goes. So something fun to play with. Underneath that, you see root key, analyzed, set, and C3 plus 0, and these are changeable. And one of the neat things about Grain is that whatever sample you load, it automatically tries to analyze the sample, the pitch, and then apply and then adjust it appropriately, so you can play in key without having to figure it out yourself. And for someone who's been in electronic music for or been playing with electronic music for 20 years, I can tell you that this sort of thing is underappreciated. All you kids these days, not to sound like an old man, but y'all got it pretty good, because you used to have to figure out what pitch is this in, then you'd slow it down, and you'd have to figure out, okay, I gotta get this thing back in key so that I can then play it. And I mean, there's some math involved, and it wasn't fun. So this is one of those things where I'm like, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. It's great. So that's what's going on with that little section. And then of course you can change the pitch there as needed if you want to plus minus semitones or change the root. So global position is on right now, and what it does in the case of the sample section is if I want playback of voices, you see the little blue arrow moving back and forth. If I want new voices that I play to start from that blue arrow, then that's what global position is going to do for you. So if global position is off, then the sample plays from the beginning, in this case every time. So if you'll listen, or now I'll turn it on. Every new note is playing from where the blue arrow is. Back on. So that's what global position will do for you. So jitter affects the playback, and with no jitter, you see this is set to end freeze, and at the end it just freezes. Now I'll turn the jitter on, and you can see the arrow jumping around. And depending on how much jitter you have set, then it jumps around more or less, because if it's see how it's jumping all over the place. And that can affect the quality of the sound of your playback. and it depends on the patch how much effect that's going to have, but you can adjust to taste. So the speed knob, depending on what algorithm you've selected, spectral grains, grain oscillator, long grains, tape, can have different effects. It's probably most noticeable with tape. At 100%, it's playing the sample back at exactly what it is, right? Then playing the sample back slower and slower. All the way down to 0% where it's not moving at all. Very, very slowly. Playing that bad boy. It's going to be going for a long time. And you probably figured out that this is really good for tape stops, like this. So you're here. Here, we can turn that delay and we'll just turn the effects off. And we don't have to have quite so long of a release. So we just go here. And it's one of those, if you're going to do a tape stop, best to automate it, because obviously you could manually do it, but it's easier to automate that to get exactly what you want. So that's your speed, and like so. Like I said, you get a different effect depending on the algorithm that you've selected. So, again, to taste, play with it, and see how it goes. Last part of the sample section, the motion. So, motion selector. How is it going to play across... across the how's the playhead going to move across the sample? So freeze does just what it sounds like. It's frozen in one spot, and this is where you can see I'm adjusting jitter, and 100% is random. I guess it's random within a certain percentage of the sample in this case, but this is where you're like, oh, this is the perfect noise, and then I just want a little bit of variation, so I mess with my jitter. So one shot, hopefully you know what that does. That's it, one shot. You got one shot. But your speed can affect it. And when it gets to the end, it's done. Forward loop. So it's starting here, goes to the end, and then comes back to here. And you notice I don't have any sustain on that, so we'll boost the sustain. And that's one way to keep a note going, infinite sustain. Forward backward loop, so it's going to start at the green, go to the red, and come back, and this little, you can see the little red one here is a little hint of what it's going to do. effects, I think. All right, end freeze. So it's going to start here. It's going to go to the end, and you can see the little pause. It's going to pause. And you're hearing this oscillator right here. So let's move this to here, and it'll stop on a high point. And it just freezes right there at the end. I'll turn the jitter on. So it does something, so it's not just flat completely. Now I turn my global position off if I'm using that. Freezing at the end. All right, and then envelope 1. So we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Envelope 1, see how it says motion? So this is controlling the motion of your blue arrow. We'll turn the jitter off. Nice and smooth. Now let's say I want it to go faster. So your speed here, you can ignore it at that point, because I'm controlling it with this knob. And so this is where we start to tie in the other stuff we've talked about in the other episodes. So here I have made it a de facto freeze because I'm all on the same line, right? Okay. Now playing from, so if you want to play from the front of the sample to the back of the sample, but you want to use this motion envelope, bottom to top going across. Let's edit that. Let's edit that envelope. All right, so follow, if you can, follow 2 places at once. Follow the blue arrow here and follow the blue arrow up there. So it goes up to here, so it went all the way across, and then I've got sustain turned on, so it froze right where I have sustain turned on, and then it's going to move across here, and it's going to go back to the beginning. And depending on what your sample is, this is where you can do some really interesting stuff where it'll freeze at a certain point in the sample and can just be an interesting effect. And if you turn your jitter on like I just did, then okay, cool. It's not just totally static right there. And again, you can use different algorithms. The next episode is going to be about algorithms, so we're not going to get into that too much right now. But that's where all the like an insane amount of power is. It's obviously much of Grain is centered around what we're looking at here, the sample section and the playback algorithms, and they are powerful. So we have talked about all the buttons there in that playback section and demonstrated quite a few things. Hopefully it makes more sense to you now than it did at the beginning. If I missed something or if it wasn't clear enough, let me know and I will try to revisit it for you and make something that explains it a little bit more clearly. Or if you just want a better demonstration or how to use a certain one of these pieces to make a patch, then let me know and I'll see if I can whip something together. So thanks for your eyes and ears on this. Like and subscribe, you know how that stuff goes, and I will see you next time. Cheers.